wine and spirit, nectar of the gods, and, well, God stuff. Two of my passions in life that seemed at odds with one another. Did I have to forsake wine in order to nurture my spiritual practice? Or did I? Let's explore the arena where vino and spirituality converge through conversations with the folks who embrace them both. I'm your host, Rhonda Anea. Welcome to the Wine and Spirit Show.
The wine was wonderful. We had Cabernet Franc, I believe. That was delicious.
Yeah.
Was this someone whose family has a vineyard in California? So we drank some California wine as well.
Cool.
But it was beautiful.
I bet. So what do you think is there? Were you in Oregon?
I was in Oregon, and I did have some Willamette Valley wine, but I want to say I had a Pinot Noir. But I was on a college trip, and I was the only one drinking, so I was just happy to have red wine in a glass. Order it fast.
So hi everyone, it's Rhonda Anea coming to you from Wine and Spirit, and this is my good friend Laurie Cancellieri.
Hello.
How you been, Laurie?
Good. Very good.
So good to
Very
see
well.
you. And this is her beautiful home on the Long Island Sound, as you can see. I don't know if you're gonna be able to. We're gonna pick up the sounds of the waves, but it's really nice. And I've known Laurie from the wine business. And she and her husband have a great restaurant out in Montauk called Rick's Krabby Cowboy Cafe. So how long have you been there?
I've been there 10, 11 years. I was at my restaurant before that, and Rick's been there in that location since 95.
Wow.
So it's a while.
Yeah, we're gonna put some pictures of the restaurant. We're gonna do another show this summer. We're gonna go out there. We'll have a lot of fun. And onion rings, believe it or not, onion rings are my favorite. Oh my gosh, they're so good, so good. So, what do you think is the reason that you love wine?
Interesting question. I think because you usually drink wine. For me, I drink wine traveling. Drink wine in Italy a lot. I've had wine traveling all over Europe. And then at home, I usually drink it when I have friends over or people I'm entertaining, making a meal.
It's celebratory. Yeah. You get to enjoy it with friends, and it's social and
everyone just warms up a dinner.
Right?
And also, I think on the other level, why I love it is just knowing about it and that it's a living thing, and that just fascinates me. Can't profess to be a huge expert in winemaking, but anytime I've talked to people passionate about winemaking, just the fact that it is a living thing and changes with terroir and all the different things that go on. You gotta love it.
Yeah, I had a customer once when we used to do wine dinners a lot, and that's exactly what he said. I had to have the wines had to be in the restaurant at least a week ahead of time because it was a living thing. And it needed to acclimate to the new location, to his restaurant, before he would serve it to his customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. So cool. So, if you had only one wine to drink for the rest of your life, what do you think it would be?
Only one wine.
We know that's not the case. But if you had...
You know, I switch off so much. I like so many different wines. I know it would be Italian.
Okay.
Actually... Right now, this moment, if I had one wine to drink, it would be a Vino Noble Montepulciano, that my cousins just opened up at our dinner in Portland. She had spent time with the winemaking family, and they ship it over, and all I said when I opened it is I didn't know Montepulciano came in this flavor. It was like, and apparently it's a different grape than the one we think of, but it was beautiful. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I know. Reds are my favorite, so I get that in the Italian.
It was quite a surprise, that wine.
That's awesome. So. That's awesome. And what kind of food would you pair that with?
Well, am I only eating that one thing for the rest of my life? It would have to be pizza. But they paired it with Moroccan food that they made. It was incredible.
Wow.
So I don't know.
So Laurie loves to travel. Every time I see a post on Facebook, she's somewhere exotic and having a great time. So what's the most unusual wine you've ever tried in your travels?
I was with a group of women chefs traveling in India probably 10 years ago. And one of them was a sommelier from California and has a beautiful restaurant in Walnut Creek. And I would have to say the unusual wine was the one that wasn't corked, because this group of chefs, it was the funniest thing every night. We just kept on trying wines, and we were in lovely, lovely places, and it became quite hilarious.
Okay, that's fun, right? So you associate wines with experiences.
Yeah,
that's
so it was funny, but unusual. I've had, I think the most fun I had drinking wine. I went on another chef's tour, because that's always the most fun, because people like to talk about this stuff when you're with chefs. I was on a chef's tour with Rick Bayless, and we were in Mexico, and he was with Mexican chefs from America and other chefs. I don't cook Mexican. And we were in the La Cheto, which is a Mexican vineyard. And it was so great. And the man, I don't know his name, he was like the grandfather of Mexican wine. He was Italian, and he came over and started the whole wine culture in Mexico. And he was pulling out like everything from his treasures, and it was just amazing.
That's great. I am familiar with those wines.
Oh, it was great.
We used to sell them.
It was really fun
back in the day. Yeah, great
he had
wines.
some pretty amazing ones stored
Right.
away.
I always wondered why the Italian. I didn't know the backstory.
Yeah, he
Italian,
was cool.
So.
He was an older Italian gentleman. He was so fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, why don't we change gears now?
Okay.
And I know that we have a lot of similar interests in the spiritual realm, but you have a talent that not many people do. Would you like to talk about that? Your psychic,
my juggling.
Your
How did you know it was a baton twirler?
That's because I'm psychic. Okay. Not she is. So tell us about your psychic abilities. When did you first kind of recognize that was going on?
When did I first recognize it? I guess I've always had it. I started being more in touch with spirit. And let's see, Lola's chiming in here. So
she is.
She never talks. So yes, Lola, you turned me on to it. So I'm going to have to say it was almost 16 years ago when Lola arrived. Thank you, Lola. Probably true. And so I've had a pretty large relationship with spirit, and I've done some. As I started learning more about it and realizing the power of our spirit guides, and the times that I was getting messages and the times that I knew there were people in the room. I don't have it in a huge, huge way. I can't say that I'm looking at you right now and see your ancestors, but there are times that I know and I get messages, or there are times that I do see that. But I basically have learned what I'm doing is channeling messages. So there are times that, such as, sadly, 9/11, I knew on the 10th and saw the whole thing without realizing that was a message of any kind.
Wow.
But I guess that you and I were talking the other day, which is what you're referring to, which I don't really tell people often because it freaks them out. But I've learned that I can see people's thoughts, and I think it's what they're seeing in their mind. So I guess I'm a mind reader in that sense. So when my husband will say I'm going out to check the mail or buy something, and I see him standing at the window getting an ice cream, and I say to him, "But we haven't eaten yet." why are you going to go get ice cream? He's like, whoa. So I guess that's, I'm trying to learn when and how to use that. I am a intuitive coach. And so when I am working with people, especially on the phone, which is so interesting, well, I guess either way in person, but often on the phone when you tune into someone and you listen at a certain level, I can sort of see the things they may not be saying. And so I can help with
That's
bringing
interesting.
that
So
stuff
just
out.
explain a little bit to our audience. What is an intuitive coach?
It's a coach. I guess they call it life coaching, but I don't like that term. CTI interactive coach. I was trained that way. Intuition is a part of that. Mm-hmm. I happen to have a lot of it, so I tend to do that more than the straightforward coaching questions. A lot of times I really have strong feelings, and so I will offer them up, and if they land, they land. And
right. Yeah. Isn't that
try to move
interesting?
people
Because
forward.
I do some of the coaching myself, and sometimes does this happen where you just like all of a sudden you ask something and you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Or you just know, like they're saying one thing and you know what they're thinking about is something completely else. A lot of what I was trained in, and it really helps, is metaphor and letting metaphor take over. So if you let your mind go clear, all of a sudden you'll be like, I feel this. Or a big one is like, you can feel in their body where they're feeling things. Mm. So I feel you almost stuck at this level. And you're on the phone, you know, my hands are on my chest. Is that what you're feeling? Oh yeah. It's always a mirror. It's such an interesting thing to me. But that helps then with what is the thing holding your chest? Why can't you breathe? What's in your stomach?
Mm-hmm. So how would does someone utilize your ability knowing that you're an intuitive coach, or is that, how do you get your clients?
Referrals. And because I am lucky enough to own a restaurant, a marina, and a hotel, I don't do a lot of coaching regularly. So I'm pretty selective about what clients I work with. Mm-hmm. But someday hope to be able to do more of it. I usually, when you begin working with someone, I would say I have a lot of intuitive thoughts that come up. Would you have your permission to share it? And I was trained that way. It's nothing, that's what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And people will say yes, and you can offer it. And if it feels right, go with it, But I think that's the thing I've learned, that in coaching, I think that's what's made me use my intuition more, because I've learned you can offer it, and it may not be right, it may not be, but there may be a link to something else. That happened the other day. A high school friend out of the blue texted me about problems he was having with his daughter, and I was like, I just knew what the issue was when he texted me, and it was a very odd thing. Anyway, so I just went for it, and I said, listen, I do some intuitive work. I'm getting this message really strongly. This is what I think the issue is. This is what I think is going to happen. This is what I think you need to think about. General stuff. It wasn't And he wrote back and said, oh my God, thank you so much for offering that up. I'm breathing now. You're right. This is exactly what it is. And so it's new for me to just offer it out there, but
right. Now, how long did it take you to feel comfortable in offering information like that? Were you always just able to give it out?
No.
Right?
I realized probably this year, as I started offering it more, and usually was right, and I realized that it's my first, I'll say my 58 years, first 58 years were being, what did I just get on Facebook? I'm 100% assertive in the personality test. Let's just say I was assertive. Because I knew. And I've learned in the last 2 years why I knew, and that it's obnoxious when you just insist on things that people don't know, but you know from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But I never understood that. So now I'm less assertive and I offer it less. But when I do, and you don't have to have an opinion on everything we learn in our sixth decade.
So it's not so much an opinion. Isn't it more of a knowing?
Yeah.
It's just like you get the download. You're in tune with whomever you're connected with, and it's just.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like, okay, there's water out there.
Right,
well,
exactly.
Yeah, you've got this emotion going on. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I work with a medium teacher as well, where you just learn like it's out there. When there are kids in this class who just are seeing spirit all the time, it's mind blowing. I worked with a woman. The way I first really understood what it was all about was. I had a loss in my family. I was very connected in hearing him all the time. Other people would say, well, I'm going to a medium. And I would say, well, why? Why are you going to a medium? Like, why don't you just ask your loved one, like, what's up? And so I realized that someone said to me, well, maybe everyone doesn't do that. Right. And right after that, I ended up at Red Mountain as the universe brings us to places we need. And there was a woman who, Laurie Levin, doing intuitive work, teaching people how to go in and go up. And there were 5 of us there. It was the oddest thing. And she taught me. And she taught me how to really go in, ask a question, connect, and get amazing answers. So, yeah, now I know.
Okay. I think it's fascinating. I think it's really
makes me happy. People always say to me like, "Wow, you're happy." And I had some loss, and I'm happy because I know of the connection, and I know that the universe truly is there and supporting us, and I know that not everyone's meant to be happy or on the same journey or whatever. So I'm really okay with finally just letting it be what it is.
Right. Just letting go and trusting.
Yeah.
Trusting is a big part of it, I think.
Yeah. It's all just how it's supposed to be,
That's great.
Sometimes the more we try to control, the more I do feel, and the one thing I would say is the more we try to control other people, like our children or our sisters and brothers, our friends, the more we try to control them, we sometimes are derailing the journey of another soul. And I've just started to learn and respect more that sometimes people really need to fail a certain way, or sometimes they need to experience this, or, as my son said to me once, I don't learn the same way you do, so.
Exactly.
And he said that after like I think getting arrested or something, like it was like a day with graffiti artists in, being arraigned. And it was like, what are you doing? And he was like, that's great. Like, I don't learn the same way you do.
Right.
So,
we learn by experience. Yeah. Words don't teach.
Yeah.
We can talk till we're blue in the face, especially when it comes to our kids. And it's a good thing. Yeah. And I've always found no matter what, we're always okay.
Yeah.
We're always okay.
Exactly.
And we're having a great journey. So do you have a daily practice? Or a somewhat routine?
My daily practice is driving from one place to another, because I live in one place, work in another, and I have stepkids in another place and kids in another place. So bad excuse, but I'm not a disciplined person. However, that said, I always live near the water, and so here and also in Montauk, I do spend at least half an hour a day doing some form of meditation and looking at the water. Yes. And sometimes it may not be like straight meditation. It might literally be sitting. I go down to the beach at Ditch every day and I sit on a bench and I connect for 30 minutes or so. I mean, it's not like I time it.
Right.
But, and I really feel like that's my thing.
I'm with you there. Yeah, every day, Lily, I go for a walk somewhere by the water. Well, always somewhere by the water, but I love especially the beach. Especially the beach. Just the minerals, breathing in.
There's something about breathing it.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
And So just a little aside
Okay.
About our dogs.
Okay.
Now, the first time I ever met Lola, when I went to Rick's out in Montauk, I was fascinated with her, and I'm going to take some shots and we're going to put it in there. But she is the sweetest dog, sweet. And then I'm like, what kind of dog is she? Tibetan Terrier. So I was like, oh my gosh, Tibetan, because I meditate, and the Dalai Lama had a Tibetan Terrier.
They were bred to be monks' companions.
Yes.
They're as psychic as you get.
Yeah. So that was really cool. So of course I had to get one. So, but
I got her because I didn't want a dog. My kids wanted a dog. Well, I got her older, the one before her, that I didn't want a dog, and my friend had one, and they were so standoffish and so aloof, and they didn't have dog breath. So that was
they're more like cats than dogs, I think.
But then I found out what an amazing breed it is.
Yes, they're not your typical dog.
Oh, she's been an amazing companion. She's almost 16. She's with me all the time.
Oh, she's sweet. Back to wine. Where do you think is... I know we talked about having wines in get-togethers, socially. Now, do you like to have bonfires on the beach and drink wine, or by the fireplace?
Certainly by the fireplace.
Yes.
I have a women's group, and we do fires, and we certainly drink our wine. So
nice.
That evolved. It started out just a basic water and healthy food women's group, spiritual women's group,
Mm-hmm.
but it has evolved into people bringing wine, because it is something that's lovely to do and share. People bring and share their wine.
And now, have you ever had because a little angst between, I've got my spiritual side and I try to nurture that, and then there's the wine, and did you ever have a struggle between the two, or have you always been able
absolutely. Spiritual side is just coming out, I think we don't have time sometimes, or we don't have, I don't know, it's like, this is me. I think I grew my spiritual side. I think that's a better answer.
Okay.
It was probably always there, but life gets in the way. I look back and I see hints of me having had it my whole life. But I'm not sure I cherished it or was aware of it. I just got a letter from a girl who I wrote a letter to when I was 13 and she was 7. And she said that I wrote her this letter that made her so happy, but she didn't know who I was. And I was like, that's so interesting that I did that at 13, because she was a little girl we were building houses in Alabama. It was her family helping us build houses. I don't have any memory of being that person who would have taken the time to write a 7-year-old a letter to say how great you are. And so, there's like hints that come back. Oh, I guess you always had that. You always valued certain things. Mm-hmm. But who knows,
Right, right. So tell me more about the fires with the women's group. That sounds fascinating.
We do always solstice fires. We do the old put in what you don't want to bring with you kind of burning. We meet once a month for the last 7 years.
Nice. And
it's mandatory. You've got to be there. You can't say I'm busy unless you're really, really busy. So we all pretty much show every month. And we have a psychic potluck. We never talk about what we're bringing. You can bring, not bring wine, bring brown, bring whatever you want.
And it always works out?
We always have the perfect meal. And so it's great. It's really, we always laugh. We don't know how it works, but it always works. So, and it's at my house, so we always know if nobody brings anything, I could whip up a pot of spaghetti. Okay. But it always works.
That's great. I love it.
And we share, and we talk about the spiritual things in our lives. We talk about our spiritual development. Actually, that someone at my women's group was the first person to say, maybe not everyone hears from spirit. Maybe that's a gift you have. And it was like, oh, so it's just sort of being seen, I think. Being seen, when people are seeing your spiritual side, then all of a sudden you can be spiritual and acknowledge it in yourself, I think.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's, with some people, I feel some situations it's difficult to or it had been difficult to get this into a conversation. And now it's such a part of my life that it comes out no matter what, and people may look at me like, whatever, and they leave pretty quickly, and I'm like, oh, that's good.
When my daughter first met her, she was first dating her now husband, and she said, Mom, you have to stop talking about things like that because you're freaking him out. And I was sort of like, listen, I'll try to control it, but it's who I am. Mm-hmm. It's my belief set. And honestly, if he has a big problem with it, he's going to really hate being around me for the rest of his life. So, yeah. But, interestingly enough, he actually then had a pretty strong loss and got a little bit more in touch with that piece of himself. And now I don't think he runs screaming from me anymore. I think he enjoys it sometimes. So,
cool. That's cool. That's cool. So, why don't you tell our listeners the website for Rick's in case they want to check it out?
CrabbyCowboy.com.
CrabbyCowboy.com. That's easy.
And our jingle is on there, and our jingle is famous on the East End.
That's right.
My husband wants me to let you know that our jingle is on that website. He's very proud of it.
And I've only heard it a couple times, so I can't recite it, and I won't ask you to. So if you want to hear the jingle, go to the website. CrabbyCowboy.com. That's fun. And thanks so much, Laurie.
Oh, thank you.
It's been great. You're a wonderful person, and
thank you.
With a big heart.
Thank you.
And I wish you the most blessings that I can possibly bestow upon you. Just many blessings to you, dear.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.